BJP ushers in a generational shift as 45-year-old Nitin Nabin, son of a Bihar BJP stalwart, takes charge as the party's youngest national president. Prime Minister Modi says, "Nabin is now my boss." Another showdown between the Tamil Nadu government and Governor R.N. Ravi, who storms out of the assembly and refuses to read his speech, claiming the national anthem was insulted. Chief Minister M.K. Stalin hits back, quoting Annadurai. Stalin asks, why does a state need a governor? 27-year-old techie Yuvraj Mehta's tragic drowning in Noida in Uttar Pradesh exposes deadly neglect, hours of pleas, ignored warnings and delayed rescue on a dark, foggy night. Justice delayed, a life lost to criminal apathy. India and the UAE forge a bold defence pact amid rising Gulf tensions, countering the Saudi-Pakistan alliance. The partnership covers tech, special ops and cyber warfare on a shifting geopolitical chessboard. Trump threatens 200% tariffs on French wines and champagne over Paris's reluctance to join his Gaza Board of Peace. Macron mocks America's Greenland push but offers talks. Transatlantic rift deepens amid trade threats and sharp diplomacy. US military activity in Greenland confirmed amid Trump's repeated threats to annex the island, sparking tension across Europe. Denmark warns against pressure, urges dialogue as European unease grows over sovereignty fears. Even as he pushes to acquire Greenland, Trump slams the UK over the Diego Garcia deal, calling it great stupidity. He warns UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer that Russia and China are noticing this act of giving away the island to Mauritius as an act of total weakness. And Italian fashion giant Valentino Garavani, known as the last emperor of couture, dies at 93. His iconic designs and empire defined global fashion, leaving a timeless legacy honored worldwide. Hello and welcome to the Times of India. You're watching Headlines at 8 with me, Neha Khanna. Our top story on the show tonight. The BJP has ushered in a generational shift as Nitin Nabin formally took charge today as the party's national president at its Delhi headquarters in the presence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, outgoing Chief JP Nadda, senior leaders and union ministers. Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Nitin Nabin on his election as the BJP national president and declared that the young leader will now be his boss in matters related to the party. Addressing a gathering at the party headquarters, Prime Minister Modi described 45-year-old Nabin as a millennial who belongs to a generation that has witnessed a great deal of change in India. Nabin was declared the BJP national president at the party headquarters at the conclusion of the Subcontinent Tariff, which saw elections to various party posts from the booth level to the national level. Prime Minister Modi said, "When it comes to party matters, Honorable Nitin Nabin ji, I'm a worker and you are now my boss. Now, Honorable Nitin Nabin ji is the president of all of us and his responsibility is not just to manage the BJP but also to ensure coordination among all NDA allies." Prime Minister Modi said Nabin belongs to an era when people heard the news on the radio during their childhood and are now well versed in using artificial intelligence. He said Nitin has both youthful energy and a great deal of experience. At just 45, Nabin becomes the youngest leader to helm the BJP and its 12th national president, assuming charge unopposed and signalling a carefully calibrated transition at the top. A son of late BJP stalwart and four-time Bihar MLA, Nabin Kishore Prasad Sinha, Nitin Nabin entered politics in 2006 after his father's death and quickly carved out his own identity. Backed by nearly 2 decades of organizational experience, he has risen from the BJP's youth wing in Bihar to handling critical election responsibilities, including playing a key role in dismantling the Congress in Chhattisgarh and scripting the party's return to power there. A five-time MLA and former Bihar minister handling key portfolios, Nabin has also served as BJYM National General Secretary and BJP Bihar Unit President. A blend of grassroots politics and organizational muscle now propelling him to the party's top post.
जब बात पार्टी के विषय को आती है, तब माननीय नितिन नबीन जी, मैं एक कार्यकर्ता हूं, वे मेरे बॉस हैं। आने वाले 25 वर्ष बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। ये वो कालखंड है जब विकसित भारत का निर्माण होना है और होना तय है। इस महत्वपूर्ण कालखंड की शुरुआत में हमारे माननीय नितिन नबीन जी बीजेपी की विरासत को आगे बढ़ाएंगे। मैं आजकल के युवाओं की भाषा में कहूं तो नितिन जी खुद भी एक प्रकार से मिलेनियल है। वो उस जनरेशन से हैं जिसने भारत में बड़े आर्थिक, सामाजिक और टेक्नोलॉजिकल परिवर्तन होते देखे हैं। वो उस जनरेशन से हैं जिसने बचपन में रेडियो से सूचनाएं पाई और आज एआई के भी एक्टिव यूजर है। नितिन जी के पास युवा ऊर्जा भी है और संगठन में कार्य का लंबा अनुभव भी है। ये हमारे दल के हर कार्यकर्ता के लिए बहुत उपयोगी होगा। साथियों, इस वर्ष जनसंघ की स्थापना को 75 वर्ष हो रहे हैं और मैं आज इन 75 वर्ष लगातार लक्षावधि कार्यकर्ताओं ने, अनेक परिवारों ने, अनेक पीढ़ियों ने जो त्याग, तपस्या और बलिदान दिए हैं, मैं उनको आदरपूर्वक नमन करता हूं।
A fresh row erupted today between the Tamil Nadu government and Governor R.N. Ravi. The governor walked out of the assembly session after declining to deliver an address prepared by the M.K. Stalin-led DMK government. The governor's house later gave a 13-point explanation for the walkout, saying the national anthem was insulted in the assembly and that the speech prepared for the governor contained various inaccuracies and unsubstantiated claims. The state assembly session started with the Tamil anthem. The Lok Bhavan statement alleged that the DMK government's claim that Tamil Nadu attracted massive investments to the tune of more than 12 crore is far from the truth, and that several of the agreements with potential investors remain only on paper. The statement further alleged that the matter of women's safety has been entirely ignored, despite there being a striking rise in cases, over 55% Poxo rapes and over 33% molestation of women. The statement also reads, atrocities against Dalits and sexual violence against Dalit women are sharply increasing. However, it is totally bypassed. There is a steady decline in standards of education and widespread mismanagement in educational institutions, adversely affecting the future of our youth. Our youth is staring at an uncertain future. It does not seem to bother the government, and the issue has been totally bypassed, the statement added. Chief Minister M.K. Stalin was quick to condemn the governor's actions, saying such behavior is unacceptable. Later, he piloted a resolution saying the English version of the speech was assumed to have been read. Stalin said, The governor walked out in violation of traditions and ethos. In the state government prepared address, there is no provision for the governor to include his own views or to say anything else. The chief minister accused R.N. Ravi of deliberately committing such acts and said his action amounts to insulting the House. In other news, the tragic death of 27-year-old software professional Yuvraj Mehta in Noida in Uttar Pradesh has laid bare a chilling tale of neglect and delay. According to the autopsy report, Yuvraj's nose was clogged with mud and water and his lungs and chest were filled with it too. The cause of death was asphyxia due to drowning, followed by cardiac arrest. In the early hours of Saturday, driving home through dense fog, Yuvraj Mehta's car veered off a dark, poorly marked road in Noida's Sector 150, crashed over a broken boundary wall and plunged into a deep, water-filled construction pit barely a kilometre from his house. For nearly 2 hours, Yuvraj screamed for help, pleading from inside the pit as police and fire officials reached the spot but waited helplessly for equipment and specialists. What has outraged everyone is the silence that preceded the tragedy. Just 4.5 months earlier, locals had warned the authorities about the dangerous conditions in the area: poor lighting, damaged roads, waterlogging and uncovered drains. They had written a letter to Gautam Budh Nagar MP Mahesh Sharma, who forwarded the complaint to the then Noida Authority CEO Lokesh M. Nothing changed. Only after Yuvraj's death did iron barricades suddenly appear around the ditch, prompting anguished questions from witnesses who can't forget that foggy night. Why now? Asked one resident, haunted by what he saw. In the aftermath, the Uttar Pradesh government has removed the Noida Authority CEO and placed him on the wait list, a move many say that came too late after a life was tragically lost to years of ignored warnings and fatal civic apathy.
क्या कुछ हुआ था उस दिन? क्या कुछ बात हुई थी आपकी? क्या घटना हुआ था?
मेरा बेटा तो बचाव के लिए संघर्ष कर रहा था और हमको बोल रहा था, रिपीटेडली बोल रहा था फोन पर जब भी बात हो रही थी कि पापा बचाओ, हेल्प हेल्प भी चिल्ला रहा था ताकि कोई जनरल पब्लिक भी उसको मदद के लिए कुछ कर दे। लेकिन ज्यादातर जो वहाँ भीड़ थी वो तमाशबीन थी और कुछ वीडियो बना रहे थे। डांटने पर तब वो लोग रुके और मेरे बच्चे की जान खामखा चली गई बिना कोई संसाधन उपयोग किए। सही समय पर उचित संसाधन उसको नहीं मिला सपोर्ट के लिए, उसका जीवन चला गया। उसने 2 घंटा संघर्ष किया जान बचाने के लिए खुद से। थोड़ा सा सपोर्ट मिलता तो वो बच सकता था।
ये सब जानकारी कैसे प्राप्त हुई कि आप पहुंचे थे? क्या
हम तो वहाँ प्रत्यक्षदर्शी थे, ऑन दी स्पॉट मैं वहाँ मौजूद था ना। बेटे ने ही फोन किया था कि मैं नाले में गिर गया हूँ, तो मैं वहाँ पहुँच गया था।
क्या कुछ देखा आपने? बहुत दुखद घटना है।
धुंध थी, क्लियर विजिबिलिटी वहाँ नहीं नजर आ रही थी। तो मैंने बेटे को बोला कि तुम हो कहाँ, तो उसने एग्जैक्ट लोकेशन बताया अपना मोबाइल का टॉर्च ऑन करके। फिर वहाँ से एक हल्की रोशनी पता चली कि कहाँ पर है वो। दूर से था, काफी दूर चला गया था। तो वहां तक अगर जाता कोई गोताखोर या तैराक जाता और उसको रस्सी के सपोर्ट से ले आता तो मेरे बेटे की जान बच सकती थी।
लगभग कितने घंटों बाद उसको निकाला गया?
6 बजे रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन शुरू हुआ, फिर उसका बॉडी करीब 1 घंटा लगा रिकवर हुआ उसमें।
India and the United Arab Emirates have signalled a powerful strategic shift with implications far beyond West Asia. During Prime Minister Narendra Modi's high-stakes meeting with UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan in New Delhi, the two sides agreed to work towards a formal defence partnership. While the two countries already share robust military ties marked by joint exercises and cooperation within groupings like BRICS, the decision to elevate this into a structured defence partnership carries added weight. This comes just months after Pakistan and Saudi Arabia sealed a mutual defence pact. The timing is equally telling, with Sheikh Mohammed's brief but extremely substantive 3.5-hour visit to New Delhi unfolding amid fast-changing regional equations and growing US threats of possible military action against Iran. The move is also a calibrated signal in response to the emerging Saudi Arabia-Pakistan-Turkey alignment.
When world leaders visit India, their trips usually stretch over a couple of days, but UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, popularly known as MBZ, took a very different approach. On Monday, January 19th, he visited India and met Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi, and the entire visit lasted just about 3 hours. Despite its brevity, the trip was highly significant, with both leaders announcing plans to finalize a framework agreement for a strategic defense partnership. But why such a short visit? This was MBZ's 5th trip to India in the past decade and his 3rd as UAE president, yet it came as a surprise. The Ministry of External Affairs announced it only a day before, on January 18th. MBZ arrived at New Delhi's Air Force Station Palam at 4:20 p.m., personally welcomed by PM Modi. They rode together to a scheduled meeting at 4:45 p.m., which concluded by 6:05 p.m., after which MBZ returned to the UAE. Interestingly, the flight from Abu Dhabi to New Delhi itself takes just over 3 hours, meaning MBZ spent more time traveling than in the actual meeting, more than 6 hours in transit for a 3-hour visit. Let us first see what emerged from the meeting between Prime Minister Modi and the UAE president. The leaders reviewed the full spectrum of India-UAE cooperation and finalized a series of bilateral agreements spanning defense, space, and LNG. The highlight was the letter of intent signed to conclude negotiations for a strategic defense partnership, which could involve co-manufacturing and joint research and development of defense platforms. This pact comes months after Saudi Arabia signed a strategic defense agreement with Pakistan. In addition to defense, India and the UAE inked a 10-year LNG supply agreement between HPCL and ADNOC Gas for 0.5 million tons annually starting 2028, making the UAE India's second-largest LNG supplier. The UAE also signed a letter of intent to participate in Gujarat's Dholera Special Investment Region, allowing Emirati firms to invest in energy, airports, pilot training facilities, railways, and ports. A special briefing by Vikram Misri clarified that the partnership does not signal any change in India's stance in West Asia, emphasizing ongoing defense cooperation with the UAE.
First of all, a letter of intent was signed between the two sides to work towards concluding a framework agreement for a strategic defense partnership between India and the UAE. A letter of intent was also signed between the Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center in Space and the UAE Space Agency for a joint initiative for space infrastructure development and its commercialization. Under this particular initiative, we will look to setting up new launch complexes, satellite fabrication facilities, joint missions, space academy, and training centers. A letter of intent was signed on the UAE's participation in the development of special investment region in Dholera in Gujarat. This is a mega partnership initiative that will look at the establishment of an international airport, a pilot training school, an MRO facility, a greenfield port, a smart urban township, as well as projects related to railway connectivity and energy infrastructure.
The Ministry of External Affairs also stated that India and the UAE agreed to strengthen cooperation in advanced nuclear technologies, welcoming the Shanti Law, which opens new avenues for civil nuclear collaboration. Both countries will explore partnerships in large nuclear reactors, small modular reactors, advanced reactor systems, nuclear power plant operations, maintenance, and safety. The leaders also reaffirmed their firm condemnation of terrorism in all forms, emphasizing that no nation should provide safe haven to those who finance, plan, or carry out terrorist acts. They committed to working together under the Financial Action Task Force framework to counter terror financing and enhance anti-money laundering measures. Despite the successful outcomes of UAE President's visit to India, many are curious about the reasons behind his surprise and brief trip. Geopolitical developments provide context. So, MBZ's visit to India, though brief, carried significant purpose and high-impact outcomes.
My final thought would be that though this has been a visit of, I would say, just about 3 hours, 3.5 hours, it has been an extremely substantive visit. You can see that in terms of the outcomes, and I think this particular visit has contributed to the setting, in fact, the direction of work between India and the UAE in the very near future.
Another day, another threat of tariffs issued by Donald Trump. This time, the US president has threatened to slap 200% tariffs on French wines and champagne. Why? Because reports suggest that France intends to decline Trump's invitation to join his Gaza board of peace. Trump also shared in a Truth Social post a private message he had received from French President Emmanuel Macron regarding Greenland. Trump's all-out attack on France came after Paris derided Washington by mocking US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's justification of why Trump is fixated on the Arctic territory, which is part of Denmark. Trump wrote, and I quote, "I'll put a 200% tariff on his wines and champagnes and he will join, but he doesn't have to join," a reference to Emmanuel Macron. Trump later posted a private message from Macron where the French president told Trump that the two agree on the issues of Iran and Syria, but told him he did not understand what Trump was doing on Greenland. Macron had extended an olive branch with offers of talks on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos and even a dinner invitation to Trump. The clash underscores the deepening transatlantic rift as sharp words, leaked messages and trade threats collide on the global stage.
Do you have any response to President Macron saying he will not join the Board of Peace?
Oh, did he say that? Well, nobody wants him because he's going to be out of office very soon. So, that's all right. What I'll do is if they feel like Costco, I'll put a 200% tariff on his wines and champagnes, and he'll join. But he doesn't have to join. If he said that, you're probably giving it to me a little bit differently. But if he actually did say that, but as you know, he's going to be out of office in a few months. Our country's doing very well. We have many, many buildings opening, factories opening. We've never had anything like it. And I think you're going to see results very soon. You're already really seeing them. But we have more money being invested in our country than any country in history. As you know, the Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum, who's with me right now, has a lot to report. I don't know if you want to say a couple of words, Doug, but you might want to say how well we're doing as a country.
Well, with President Trump's leadership, we've got inflation coming down, we've got investment going up, we've got taxes going down, we've got energy prices down. Everything is aligned for us to have a banner year in 2026, and the interest in building and investing in our country has never been greater.
There's never been anything like it. The money being invested in our country is unparalleled. There's never been anything even close, by many times more than China or any other country. Do you have any questions?
President Davos, or what will be your message to the leaders?
Well, I think I have a lot of messages for Davos, but the primary message is how well the United States is doing. And I say it all the time. A year and a half ago, we were a dead country, and now we have the hottest country in the world. I mean, you're beneficiaries too. If you look, some of you have 401ks. You don't have to tell me your numbers are the best they've ever been. And the stock market's at an all-time high. We are just doing great. So I think the message in Davos, we're leaving, going to have an interesting time. We have a lot of meetings scheduled, but the message for Davos is how incredible our country is doing.
Can you speak to your letter that you wrote to the Prime Minister saying that the Nobel Prize has influenced your thinking on Greenland?
No, I don't care about the Nobel Prize. First of all, a very fine woman felt that I deserved it and really wanted me to have the Nobel Prize, and I appreciate that. If anybody thinks that Norway doesn't control the Nobel Prize, they're just kidding. They have a board, but it's controlled by Norway, and I don't care what Norway says. But I really don't care about that. What I care about is saving lives. And I think I've saved tens of millions of lives. If you look at India, Pakistan, just as won 2 nuclear powers, you look at so many of the countries that were in in some cases, a 35-year war, and I got it done. We stopped 8 wars, and maybe we'll be stopping a 9th very soon. We'll see.
What do you plan to say to European leaders in Davos when they push back on your Greenland plan?
Well, I don't think they're going to push back too much. Look, we have to have it. They have to have this done. They can protect it. Denmark, they're wonderful people. And I know the leaders are very good people, but they don't even go there. And, you know, because the boat went there 500 years ago and then left, that doesn't give you title to property. So we'll be talking about it with the various people. We've had tremendous success, and I've done more for NATO than anybody else. I don't think you'd have NATO right now. I got them to go 5% and pay as opposed to 2% and not pay. I've done more than any other American president for NATO by far. And we'll see how that goes, but Greenland is very important.
Have you invited President Putin to be a member of the Board of Peace?
Yeah, he's been invited.
Do you have any response to President Macron saying he will not join the Board of Peace?
Oh, did he say that? Well,
yeah.
Nobody wants him because he's going to be out of office very soon. So, that's all right. What I'll do is if they feel like Costo, I'll put a 200% tariff on his wines and champagnes, and he'll join. But he doesn't have to join. If he said that, you're probably giving it to me a little bit differently. But if he actually did say that, but as you know, he's going to be out of office in a few months.
Did you invite President Putin to join the...
Yes, he's one of the people. These are world leaders, and the answer is yes.
Mr. President, how do you feel about the first year of your second term?
Amazing. Tomorrow is the first year. Think of it, 1 year. I don't think there's been a term like it. I don't think any president has had a better first year than we've had in terms of success. Again, we've taken our country from a failure with open borders, no business, everything going badly, terrific inflation, the highest inflation in history, prices that are through the roof. And we brought prices down. We have very little inflation. We have a great economy. And the prices are coming down still further. But I inherited a mess, and now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world.
Mr. President, do you think that you had any influence on the Giants signing a deal with Coach Harbaugh? How do you think they'll do in New York?
I don't know, but they got a great coach. I like the coach. I like his brother. They came up to see me with about 3 months ago. They came up to see me in the White House. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
With the mother and father, because the mother likes me and the father likes me, and I think they like me. And he's a great coach, and he's going to do well with the Giants, just like his brother does so well. They got something very special in their blood, and I'm happy for the Giants. They got a great coach. It's nice that you ask. I put out a strong word. Hire Coach Harbaugh.
President, you tell us about the Fed. Will you make a decision before down?
Yeah, I know who I want.
You know who you want?
In the Fed.
When will you make a decision?
I'll announce it sometime, but I know who I want.
Thank you. You said securing the Arctic from Russian threats is important to you. Why are you upset about NATO allies thinking that, more seriously in Greenland by holding military exercises?
Well, that wasn't a military. They sent a few people. And they say they sent them not for me, but to guard against Russia. But, NATO's been warning Denmark for about 20 years now, longer than that, 25 years. They've been warning Denmark about the Russian threat. And it's not only Russia, it's also China. So we'll see what happens. But let's put it this way. It's going to be a very interesting Davos.
Fresh alarm bells are ringing over Greenland after the North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD, confirmed that a US military aircraft would arrive at the Pitufik space base for what it called long-planned NORAD activities. The announcement comes against the backdrop of President Donald Trump's repeated and provocative remarks about taking control of the world's largest island, a Danish territory, fueling speculation and unease across Europe over Washington's intentions. Denmark has pushed back sharply. Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen has warned that Trump would not achieve his Greenland ambitions by pressuring Europe. He said such tactics risk driving allies further apart, even as he urged a return to dialogue. Meanwhile, Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre has responded to US President Donald Trump expressing grievance over the Nobel Peace Prize snub. Norway's Prime Minister clarified to Trump that the Norwegian government has no authority over choosing Nobel laureates. He says, "I have clearly explained, including to President Trump, what is well known. The prize is awarded by an independent Nobel committee and not the Norwegian government." Trump says Norway's failure to award him the Nobel Peace Prize altered his approach to global affairs and alliance politics, including Greenland.
The North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD, said a military aircraft would arrive at the Pitufik Space Base in Greenland for long-planned NORAD activities. NORAD said the activity had been coordinated with Denmark, and Greenland had also been informed. The NORAD aircraft arrival coincides with more Danish troops arriving in Greenland for winter training amid rising tensions with Washington over the strategic territory. Danish soldiers landed on Monday at Kangerlussuaq Airport as part of what the Danish government termed it as an expanded exercise activity in Greenland, carried out in close cooperation with NATO allies. Denmark has blamed Trump for the current situation in Greenland.
What we are certain of is that if we don't give a strong response, then we are sending a signal of weakness. I was in Washington last week and had an agreement with his vice president. I think it was as close to Trump as you could get, at least I can get, that we should now sit down and look at how we can solve this in a way that meets reasonable American wishes, because there is a new situation in the Arctic, and it will probably only get worse if you look a generation ahead, without crossing our red lines. It was blown up by these very, very violent statements from the president, and it is really, really important that all of us who believe in international law speak out, so to show Trump that you can't go any further down this road.
Trump has doubled down on his plan to take over Greenland, imposing a 10% tariff on goods from 8 nations that have rallied around Denmark and Greenland against the U.S. push for seizing the territory. The countries affected by Trump's tariffs have condemned the move.
On Greenland, the right way to approach an issue of this seriousness is through calm discussion between allies. And let's be clear, the security of Greenland matters. And it will matter more as climate change reshapes the Arctic, as sea routes open and strategic competition intensifies. The High North will require greater attention, greater investment, and stronger collective defence. The United States will be central to that effort, and the UK stands ready to contribute fully alongside our allies through NATO. But there is a principle here that cannot be set aside, because it goes to the heart of how stable and trusted international cooperation works. And so any decision about the future status of Greenland belongs to the people of Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark alone. That right is fundamental, and we support it. Denmark is a close ally of the United Kingdom and of the United States, a proud NATO member that has stood shoulder to shoulder with us, including at real human cost in recent decades. Alliances endure because they're built on respect and partnership, not pressure. That is why I said the use of tariffs against allies is completely wrong. It is not the right way to resolve differences within an alliance. Nor is it helpful to frame efforts to strengthen Greenland's security as a justification for economic pressure. Such measures hurt British workers, British businesses, and the British economy. And that is why I've been so clear on this issue. A trade war is in no one's interest. And my job is always to act in the UK's national interest.
There is broad consensus among Europeans that further threats of tariffs will weaken rather than strengthen transatlantic relations. They also carry the risk of escalation. Tariffs are usually paid by those in whose country the imports go. In this case, American consumers would pay the tariffs, but they would of course also damage our economy, the European economy, and the German economy in particular, which is why we want to find a solution here. In any case, we on the European side will respond to such challenges in a level-headed and appropriate manner. The overarching goals remain a united Europe and a strong NATO. As you all know, I am in close contact with our European neighbors and partners as well as with the American president. It is clear that we want to assert ourselves as a country and as a continent.
It is truly the end of an era. The last emperor of couture, Italian fashion giant Valentino Garavani, the visionary founder of the Valentino fashion house and a towering symbol of timeless elegance, has died at the age of 93, closing the curtain on an era of haute couture. Known simply as Valentino, he reigned over global fashion for nearly 5 decades, dressing royalty, first ladies, Hollywood icons and socialites, and becoming synonymous with glamour, especially his iconic Valentino red. Often hailed as the last emperor of couture, Valentino built one of Italy's most revered luxury empires after founding the brand in 1959, standing shoulder to shoulder with legends like Giorgio Armani and Karl Lagerfeld. With an estimated fortune of $1.5 billion by 2026, his success reflected both artistic mastery and sharp business acumen. Tributes poured in from across the world, with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni calling him an eternal symbol of Italian high fashion. She said Italy has lost a legend, but one whose legacy will inspire generations to come. Well, that's all the time we have on this edition of Headlines today. Thanks so much for watching. Do join us again at the same time tomorrow.